One moment, please. My name is Paul Dalzell, and I am the worship coordinator of this, the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Charleston. Welcome all of you, our members, our friends, and if this is your first time here, we welcome you and thank you for joining us today. I'm going to start with some announcements. We have several. Get your UUC t-shirt today after the service, just $5. See Tina, and if you would, look at Tina. Also, the Spiral Moon Grove camping trip is June 21st through the 2nd. The poster for it is on the board out front. Everyone is welcome. Please join in the fun. And please join us, the Stone Action Group and Kaleidoscope Collective, for the Rainbow Pride Parade, Saturday, June 1st. Line up with our yellow UUC banner on Canal Boulevard and Laidley at noon. Wear your UU shirts, please. It should be a lot of fun. And everyone should join that can, please. Also, the Kaleidoscope Collective is hosting Queeroke from 5 to 8 here at UUC on Saturday, June 1st. From 5 to 8 p.m. And the other announcement I have is that Carol is not here today. She's feeling a little bit poorly. Doesn't look like we have any of the young people here today for that, so I think it'll be okay. And then she also sent a message about dinner with friends. The next dinner with friends will be May 30th at 5 o'clock at the Hale House. Hale House is 212 Hale Street, Charleston, and it is a bourbon-style bistro located in downtown Charleston. The owner, Vicente Cruz, has assembled the state's largest selection of hard-to-find rare bourbons, craft cocktails, fine wine, local craft beers. They have great food and excellent service. They use as many locally sourced products as possible, and nearly every menu item is made in-house. If you are a new member or visitor, come to dinner with us so we can get to know each other, says Carol. Everyone is welcome. Please make reservations with Carol. Her email is available from the office. And let's take a moment to thank our tech team, Maddie, Paul, and Jaden, and Neil, the special fill-in, who has started this whole thing going, the tech team, and then stepped down when he became, when he got on the board, and is filling in today, and I think he has learned how much things have changed in the last year. Great job for Neil. And keep the applause going for Maddie, who has set up the sound, helped teach Neil what all has changed over this last year, and gotten both things going. So thank you, Maddie. I'd also like to thank our greeter, Stephanie, who's been jumping between the table and the music makers. Also our ushers, Tammy and Jean. Always our music coordinator, Jamie Edwards, and the UUC music makers for all the work they do to make Sundays happen. And a big thank you to our congregational administrator, Sarah Stone, for her patience and talent in organizing these facilities, the orders of service, and for keeping this collection of counterculture congregants operating. Please join us in singing our welcome song, and if you feel comfortable doing so, greet those around you.
Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whoever you love, we welcome you. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whoever you love, we welcome you.
Today's opening words are entitled Multiple Intelligences Welcome by Dawn Shea Cooley. I first learned about Reverend Cooley when she was a minister at the First Unitarian Church in Louisville, Kentucky, and played competitive roller derby. Yes, their minister was Live Fearless with the Derby City Roller Girls. At the time, my youngest was also skating in derby, so a UU minister skating in roller derby was great. Now, she is on the congregational life staff for Unitarian Universalism's Southern region, where she helps congregations adapt to the changing cultural religious landscape. The diversity of the human species is astounding. The fact that we can gather together for common experience is nothing short of a miracle. Today, let us celebrate some of those differences. Let us celebrate those who worship best through music, for whom the Holy speaks through rhythm and harmony, pitch and meter. Let us celebrate the interpersonal worshiper, who finds the sacred in relationships and in community. Let us celebrate those who worship best through the visual world, for whom the divine speaks through the aesthetics of a space. Let us celebrate the verbal and linguistic worshiper, for whom words and languages, stories and poetry are sacred sources of joy and revelation. Let us celebrate those to whom the divine might be found in logical thinking, in mathematics, and through critical thinking. Let us celebrate the intrapersonal worshiper, those who experience the holy as they listen to the still small voice within themselves and within the AC up above us. Let us celebrate those who worship best through their bodies, those for whom the divine speaks through movement and physical action. And let us celebrate the naturalistic worshiper, for whom the sacred is found in plants and animals, mountains and valleys, deserts and forests, oceans and streams. Today, may we find a way to connect with the ultimate, each according to our own ways of understanding and experiencing the world. May we bring our whole selves to this worship service and celebrate the diversity among us. I invite you to rise in body, spirit, and voice for our opening hymn, number 131, Love Will Guide Us.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the dark night. If you cannot speak like angels. If you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from
Deep within you, you can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
And now, as Billy lights our chalice. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Sorry. Please join us in reading the words which are in your order of service. Joy and grief, health and sickness, light and darkness, peace and anger, life and death, wholeness and brokenness, we each bring all of these with us here to this sanctuary of unity in diversity for this 1 hour of this one day and pour them out, commingling the oil of our lives to become the flame of this chalice, the symbol of our shared faith. Our story today is a short video, That Little Voice. Our story.
You know that little voice in your head? The one that tells you to ignore the tasteless judgment.
we gather together in worship, whether in person or virtually, to connect with the greater good, to do good, and to be better. Part of that is sharing our joys, our celebrations, our sorrows, our concerns, our peace, our help, our needs. The playset is usable again. The roof and ladder are on, and we've even added a bucket chair swing for people with small children. Also, this week, SOAR has gotten some good press for adding a third and fourth free naloxone box to our city. The third one is on Charleston's East End at the Living AIDS Memorial Park, and the W.V. Piers group added a box to their property over on Tennessee Avenue. The first two are right here, just outside the door, and at the Women's Health Center over on Washington Street West. Also, a beautiful Sunday today, for sure, celebrating all the recent graduates. And someone wrote, my parents celebrated 44 years of marriage. Also, Vandalia was amazing as usual. And another joy that we have air conditioning. Sorrows, the housing market is horrible right now. The homeless and the economy. Now let's take a moment just to sit and be still. And close your eyes or look at the chalice, or just let your mind rest. The church is a body. May this body breathe and be together in the spirit of hope. May it feel held by comfort. Those who seek consolation, may they find it in the solace of this moment. The church is a body. It is as strong as all the people who have ever gathered within its walls. It is the power of all they dreamed and all they have done. The church is a body. It is as vulnerable as the most newborn and untried of its members. It is ancient and it is ever new. The church is a story. It is the story of lives that are interwoven, brought together in this time and this place for the simple purpose of caring for one another and helping one another along the arduous path from birth to death. The church is a vision. It's a vision of unity amid diversity. It is a vision of reverence for all creation. It is a vision that beckons us beyond the concerns of our own skins. In the silence, may we abide as one body in the spirit of faith, hope, and love that is the story and the vision of this congregation. The offering we take each Sunday is an opportunity to recommit to this place and to these people. It is as much a ritual as singing together, lighting our chalice, or reciting our unison affirmation. It is a reminder of that form of love we call generosity. It is how we show that we believe it is important to worship together, to help our community, and to say yes to the values of our faith.
With us, and this is not the Coca-Cola commercial, so let me tell you what the words are. The words are, I'd like to build the world a home and furnish it with love, not I'd like to buy the world a Coke. So it's I'd like to build the world a home and furnish it with love. So nothing about Coca-Cola. Okay. I'd like to build
the world a home and furnish it with love. Grow apple trees and honeybees and snow white turtle doves. I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. I'd like to hold it in my arms and keep it company. I'd like to see the world for once all standing hand in hand, and hear them echo through the hills for peace throughout the land. I'd like to build the world a home and furnish it with love. Grow apple trees and honeybees and snow white turtle doves. I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. I'd like to hold it in my arms and keep it company. I'd like to see the world for once all standing hand in hand, and hear them echo through the hills for peace throughout the land. I'd like to build the world a home and furnish it with love. Grow apple trees and honeybees and snow white turtle doves. I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. I'd like to hold it in my arms and keep it company. I'd like to see the world for once all standing hand in hand, and hear them echo through the hills for peace throughout the land.
Please join me in reading our unison affirmation. The words are in your order of service. It may be on the screen. Love is the spirit of our faith, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. So, let's start there. Pluralism. We celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. We covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We embrace our differences and the commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. This is one of the values that the UUA will very likely soon be adopting. There are 6. I spoke on them a few weeks ago, and I thought we could hit each of them in order. Or there is no order, they're a circle, so individually. I started this with it, and then asked myself a few questions as I delved into it, as I do. What does it mean to be a pluralist religion? How did it start? How does the First Amendment, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, protect our values, and why should we worry about Project 2025 and Christian nationalism? And finally, how can pluralism save both our Unitarian Universalist faith and UUC in particular? Well, what is pluralism? I'm going to start with David Bowie talking about it. It's very brief.
Was young, fancy-free, and Tibet.
Caught that while I was writing this, and I thought, well, that's just perfect, you know. Christianity, Satanism, you see, pottery, you know. We accept all kinds. That's pluralism. On a more serious note, from Harvard University's Pluralism Project, pluralism is not diversity alone, but the energetic engagement with diversity. Pluralism is not just tolerance, but the active seeking of understanding across lines of differences. It continues, Unitarian Universalists identify with a variety of religious and philosophical traditions. Many consider themselves Christian, Jewish, Buddhist, Wiccan, humanist, atheist, agnostic, pantheist, free-thinking, or spiritual but not religious. Interfaith couples often find Unitarian Universalism appealing since it respects and draws from the wisdom of all religious traditions. Giving up other religious affiliations or practices is not a prerequisite to become a Unitarian Universalist. Unitarian Universalism is a liberal religious tradition that deeply values reason and compassion. Unitarianism is chiefly designed by the belief in one God as opposed to a trinity or a pantheon of gods. Universalism focuses on the belief that all humans are or will one day be fully reconciled or saved by God. The Unitarian Universalist tradition stems from both of these belief systems and came about by the uniting of these two paths. Although sometimes known by other names, currents of the Unitarian and Universalist thought have been part of the Christian tradition since the life of Jesus. Many early Christians upheld the oneness of God and viewed Jesus as a human prophet and teacher. Some early Christians also affirmed universal salvation, or the belief that God's love extended to everyone and all peoples are united in heaven. At the Council of Nicaea in 325 CE, the doctrine of the Trinity emerged as orthodox, and alternative ways of understanding the relationship between God and Jesus came to be considered heretical. More than 200 years later, the Synod of Constantinople, with the support of the Roman Emperor Justinian, declared as heretical the belief that universal salvation was assured. For the next millennium, it was difficult and dangerous to express Unitarian or Universalist views in public. During the Protestant Reformation, a select few began questioning the Nicene doctrine of the Trinity, and, depending on the location, they encountered intensified persecution, or they paved the way for religious freedom. In 1553, the Spanish theologian Michael Servetus was burned at the stake for promoting anti-Trinitarian ideas. In Christianity Restored, Servetus argued that the doctrine of the Trinity had no biblical basis and that the life of Jesus had been embellished beyond recognition. Christianity, he urged, must return to a well-reasoned interpretation of the Bible. Fearing persecution by Catholic authorities, Servetus passed through Geneva, where his arrest and execution were endorsed by John Calvin. Theologically liberal and socially progressive, Unitarians and Universalists of the 19th century emphasized God's love for all humankind and the necessity of being good to others while rejecting the concept of damnation and the practice of slavery. Thomas Starr King, who served both as a Universalist and a Unitarian congregation, summarized the denominations in this way. Universalists believe that God is too good to damn people, while the Unitarians believe that people are too good to be damned. Gradually, both traditions broadened to include post-Christian theists and, beginning in the 20th century, humanists who eschewed all ideas of the divine or of the supernatural. So what does it mean to be a pluralist religion? From Wikipedia, religious pluralism can be defined as respecting the otherness of others. And what is the difference then between religious tolerance and religious pluralism? Well, the author Chris Benecke, in Beyond Toleration, The Religious Origins of American Pluralism, explains the difference between religious tolerance and religious pluralism by pointing to the situation in the late 18th century United States. By the 1730s, in most colonies, religious minorities had obtained what contemporaries called religious toleration. The policy of toleration relieved religious minorities of some physical punishments and some financial burdens, but it did not make them free from the indignities of prejudice and exclusion. Nor did it make them equal. Those tolerated could still be barred from civil offices, military positions, and university posts. In short, religious toleration is not only the absence of religious persecution and does not necessarily preclude religious discrimination. However, in the following decades, something extraordinary happened in the 13 colonies, at least if one views the events from a late 18th century perspective. Gradually, the colonial governments expanded the policy of religious toleration, but then, between 1760s and 80s, they replaced it with something that is usually called religious liberty. Mark Silka, in defining religious pluralism in America, states that religious pluralism enables a country made up of people of different faiths to exist without sectarian warfare or the persecution of religious minorities. Understood differently in different times and places, it is a cultural construct that embodies some shared conception of how a country's various religious communities relate to one another and to the larger nation whole. So how do you think we are doing now regarding religious liberty? I found countless articles about religious liberty. and about how it gives a business the right to tell employees how to live. Because I believe this, you can't do that. With that being who to love, how to dress, whether or not to use birth control, make health care decisions about their own bodies, or even describe who they are. Too often these days, we are being caught up in sectarian warfare or the persecution of minorities, aren't we? But we have the First Amendment, right? It protects us, doesn't it? And that just depends on who you ask. By design, our U.S. Supreme Court is aligned 6-3 in favor of those who have decided on the side of protecting some Christians' free exercise of their beliefs over others, rather than protecting the Establishment Clause. That First Amendment, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, should protect all of us, no matter our religious views, from persecution. But when the highest court in the land is deciding cases based on their own views rather than on the Constitution, where are we then? Justice Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Justice Barrett have all decided several cases based on their religious views and have argued that citizens should not even be allowed to challenge religious displays in court, as have many of the judges on the Circuit Court of Appeals and in district courts. Religious liberty expert Amanda Tyler, the executive director of the Baptist Joint Committee for Religious Liberty, which has a long history of championing religious freedom as both a democratic and a Baptist value, says in an article on the Center for American Progress's website, I believe that the single biggest threat to religious freedom in the United States today is Christian nationalism. Christian nationalism is antithetical to the constitutional ideal that belonging in American society is not predicated on what faith one practices or whether someone is religious at all. The political ideology that seeks to merge American and Christian identities is deeply embedded in American society and manifests itself in a number of different ways, some more harmful than others. The most violent expressions, such as what we saw at the January 6th insurrection, get most of the attention. But the more subtle ones, like state legislative efforts to promote the teaching of the Bible in public schools, or to require the posting of "In God We Trust" in public schools and other public places, are also dangerous in that they perpetrate the false narrative that to be a true American, one must be Christian, and often a certain type of Christian. Christian nationalism undergirds a number of threats to religious freedom, including anti-Muslim bigotry, anti-Semitism, and government-sponsored religion. If you want to get really scared, look up and read about Project 2025. Our friend, Reverend Jim Lewis, has also said to me that Christian nationalism is the biggest threat that we face today. I hope to bring him back here to speak on that in the near future. A friend, when I mentioned pluralism, said, "Good. If we don't know where the other side is coming from, how can you talk to them?" Well, if their values consist of making this a white Christian nation, I don't really want to talk to them. Christian nationalism is based on fear of the other, be they black, brown, Muslim, gay, trans, or non-religious. Fear of others becoming equal. Remember LBJ's quote, If you can convince the lowest white man he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. Hell, give him somebody to look down on, and he'll empty his pockets for you. He wasn't my favorite president by far, and his choice of words is cringy, but he wasn't stupid. And many have taken his words and thoughts and ran with them. My goal is not to come to an understanding with the Christian nationalists. It is to gather as many of the like-minded folk out there to come here in some way, shape, or form, to increase our presence in the community, to welcome those who hold our values. It is interesting to me that our nation's very pluralist motto was changed from e pluribus unum, out of many, one, to the much more Christian In God We Trust in the 50s. Now, I love doom and gloom as much as the next guy, but is there a brighter future? Is there a world where pluralism is possible? It turns out, conveniently, that the answer is right here in Unitarian Universalism. As William J. Sinkford, in an article titled On Predicting the Future in the UU World magazine says, attendance at congregations is down and budgets are tight. Many ministers are retiring. Full-time ministries are becoming less frequent. Some small congregations are closing. Even before the pandemic, aging congregations and shrinking memberships were concerns. In many congregations, most perhaps, the stream of visitors continues. Folks continue to be drawn by the openness of our faith, the big non-creedal theological tent we try to pitch. They're drawn by their desire for values-based religious and sexuality education for their children, by Black Lives Matter signs and rainbow flags, the promise of faith no longer shaped by the uninspected privilege and a monocultural understanding of God's love. They come yearning for connection in a community that still finds it possible to believe in love. Our need for religious community abides, to support and celebrate with us and to connect us to the enduring spirit of life. These seekers want to be invited to build beloved community, and they're more than willing to help. But they first need to be fed by welcome and worship. They want a religious community that is worth the effort. The world they inhabit is multiracial, multicultural, and multi-religious. Often, so are their families. The visitors to our congregations want a faith that will help them thrive in that world. So do our longtime faithful members. Our task is to find the power in that pluralism. Our faith and our congregation here is changing. Again, from Reverend Bill Sinkford, online ministry is here to stay and can be a source of hope and growth. Some members have lost the habit of church and will not return. Watching church in pajamas has become a real choice. More will come, but not as often, at least not yet. While others, including some in the disabled and elderly communities, may consider it easier to attend virtually. If our perspective centers lamentation for what we have lost, if our energy is directed at recreating a flawed and declining past, our ministries will not speak to either the present challenges or the real opportunities. So, what is the answer? Well, clearly there isn't one. There are many questions, though. And each question begs another one about what we are going to look like in a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10. That effort that process, those questions, will all shift what we are to what we will be. I find that pretty exciting. So, let's celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. Let's covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Let's together embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. And now, let's sing again. Please rise in body, spirit, and voice for hymn number 121, We'll Build a Land.
We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free. Where the oil of gladness dissolves the mourning. Oh, we'll build a promise
And that can be.
and build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may they create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Bring the good tidings to all the afflicted and all those who mourn, and build the gardens instead of ashes. Oh, we'll build a land where peace is found. And build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may they create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Build a land in our ancient cities, stations of inspiring moments of generations. Oh, we'll build a land that people so well. Build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may they create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Build a land where mantles of praises thrones heroes on saint and most high, lives of righteousness and the people. Oh, build a land that people may serve. Build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream.
We have a calling in this world. We are called to honor diversity, to respect differences with dignity, and to challenge those who would forbid it. We are people of a wide path. Let us be wide in affection and go our way in peace. And now let's sing the recessional together real quick. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you
everywhere you